the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN should be the core principles of everyday living. It should be talked about in schools, in education institutions, in businesses. Creating a cumulative wealth for everybody is something, that we have to see while designing our business plans.
So today we have with us Akanksha Sharma, who heads CSR and Sustainability at Sterlite Technologies Limited. She spearheads the company's vision for CSR and sustainability by driving a portfolio of community projects aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and brings in expertise from organizations such as UNICEF, Jubilant FoodWorks, and Vedanta. Thank you so much for joining us, Akanksha. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
So just to set the context there, so considering that you have been a part of multiple projects around sustainability and climate change as well, so what would you say has been your motivation to work around the same?
So, sustainable development aims to balance the economic, environmental, and the social agendas, and provide a very inclusive development plan. And I think that is motivating enough for anybody to get into this domain and commit. So I think likewise, it's been a continuous and long-term agenda so far in my life. Like I have been working with multiple organizations leading their sustainability and CSR portfolios. And what I could gather is that this, however, it's been talked everywhere. The unfortunate part is it's still unappreciated, or not much appreciated to the extent that it should. Because I honestly believe that sustainability should be the core agenda, or the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN should be the core principles of everyday living. It should be talked about in schools, in education institutions, in businesses at the center, irrespective of whether they invest in CSR or not.
Definitely.
I think in political manifestos everywhere, because it's about everyday living. And I really see that gap in terms of the holistic integration of the agenda with the mainstreaming. So, of course, it's a long way to go. And the recent pandemic has actually, reminded us that climate change and the associated environmental risk, like shifting weather patterns and evolving nature of these pathogens and viruses, can no longer be ignored. So, the way world leaders globally were earlier talking about or parking this agenda separately, I think we cannot afford to do that anymore. And therefore, I believe that the need of the hour is sustainable development, and it's not something that whether you are committed or as a professional to this agenda or not, I think it's everybody's job to contribute towards it.
Indeed. And I couldn't agree more with the fact that sustainability actually is the need of the hour. And now talking about your current role at Sterlite Technologies. So how are you approaching sustainability at the current organization right now?
At Sterlite Technologies, we firmly believe that the responsible business considerations must guide our practices, and that's been my core agenda ever since I've been given this responsibility. How we engage our stakeholders to the point how we deliver and design our products and services is something that we try keeping a very close watch on all our business interactions while working on this particular agenda. So it's not that one function or one portfolio manager is working on sustainability and it is not associated with rest of the business operations. I think one beautiful thing which I have always tried doing in across all organizations and industries, whether it is food where I was working earlier, or heavy metal industry like Vedanta, or here which is a tech firm and more into data sciences and innovative techniques of operations. I think what really matters is that how considerate are we towards the environment and the social aspects
Indeed.
while doing business responsibly. And this is something that really distincts any organization apart, and which is very well appreciated by the customers in today's times. More so in the evolved countries, particularly in the US and the Europe. And our operational guidelines have therefore been always about the SDGs, like I was speaking earlier, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the eco or commitment to the principles of human rights, anti-corruption, labor laws, environmental conservation, in addition to CSR, which is now the law of the land.
Definitely. And talking about the sustainable aspect in terms of the brand itself, so was it a natural fit for Sterlite Technologies, or did you have to like extensively pivot to embed the same? And since a lot of brands, the idea of sustainability is not that acceptable, like you mentioned before, and actually because it involves a lot of cost factor that comes with changing the whole scenario, the whole processes aspect of the business for making it more sustainable. So was it a natural fit, you would say?
So, this is a very interesting question, Deepak. Thank you for asking this, because one of the pull factors, for me to join STL, and we are a large data network innovators, is about the core agenda and the commitment of the organization towards transforming everyday living. And when I say that, it's not about just the products and the services or offerings that the business is making. It's about the core commitment. This is what everybody, irrespective of the person, the supply chain head, or a new joinee, this is what the value of the company that stands for. That how do we transform the lives of millions of people, leveraging technology, leveraging innovation, and integrating it with the development plans of the nation and global development agenda. So I think it really provided me a big window in terms of the organizational focus and approach, the commitment of the leadership, and I think that is what is required, because otherwise the communities around our operations and anywhere in India, I think we all are looking for sustainable solutions to make our lives better. And a few initiatives that I would particularly like to talk about is this STL Gram, for example, which is basically a digital village program. And it's a beautiful program which provides holistic range of integrated services at the Gram Panchayat level, in a way digitizing the entire village operations and the communities around. So, for example, for me, the real empowerment is while women who's selling or making some handmade products in Maharashtra's remote village is able to access the global marketplaces like Amazon, or have first data access, and then is empowered enough to really sell it over there, is as good as some woman sitting in New York and doing her business operations. So I think this is, so what I feel is accessibility is the real empowerment in today's times, no doubts about it. And because you cannot provide food or something else to people for life now, the equal access to opportunities is the biggest enabler. And I think technology and the digital access is a very big step in enabling that. And therefore I feel that when I was getting these stories, success stories, that how in spite of the lockdown, people are SHG, self-help group women, were adding revenues to the SHG accounts. Nothing gives more pleasure when these small stories add to the empowerment.
And talking about the access bit of it, like you mentioned that you're trying to give access to these communities or these individuals in particular. So how would you say are some of the flagship interventions aligned towards the same in terms of the CSR mandate that you're running at the organization?
So at STL, we always strive to operate in a way where all our business activities are in complete synergy with the environment we operate in. So waste management, for example, has been one of our prime focus areas for driving this synergy. And it revolves around the philosophy that any process waste is considered as a lost opportunity in converting raw materials into finished products, and not just in terms of economies, but also in terms of innovation, and more so in that, In fact, we became world's first integrated optical fiber and cable manufacturer recently to be zero waste to landfill certified by Intertech USA. So I think it speaks volumes about our commitment to sustainable development and how do we treat each and every process and the business value chain operations critically, to the extent that nothing should go unnoticed or ignored. How can we not amplify innovation? How can we make people's lives better by improvising our own operations? Another beautiful initiative that is about accessibility again is we operate in Silvassa, and which is a predominantly tribal population area, and the topography of that area is that the villages are pretty scattered, and the villages do not have a very good public transportation system. And so we have launched this mobile healthcare campaign, and this program is basically about providing doorstep healthcare services, especially in the times of COVID, that how the villages are being tested, and rapid testing is happening in clusters over the villages, and how we are providing generic medicines on not for COVID but for their other problems. So and this is happening in partnership with the Indian Red Cross Society. So I think like I was saying, accessibility is something that we have to continuously work upon, not just as an organization or as a country, but as a global community. That how can we make it more and more accessible to people across all stratas of society? And this is what we are trying to drive at STL in particular.
Definitely, and I couldn't agree more with that fact. And now moving ahead, so you focus on sustaining the triple bottom line impact through green, clean, lean technologies for the geographies that you operate in. And can you elaborate on how do you do that?
So like I said, responsible business practice is the big agenda that I'm driving here at STL. And we take complete responsibility of our operations across the entire value chain, to the extent that, we have complete processes aligned, to the SDGs and responsible business, the clean energy domain. And we try to procure material, which is also, mostly aligned to these practices. Not just that, I think it's more about stakeholder engagement and driving the entire policy discourse at the industry level. So we are engaging with our customers, we are engaging with the suppliers, we engage with the government counterparts and the civil society, that how can we actually take this agenda in a more synchronized manner along with all stakeholders. See, like Deepak, I was talking to you earlier, that it's not about one person or one organization that can make sustainable development happen. Of course, each one of us has a role to play, but that's so insignificant to be noticed. I think what do we need to really talk about and is how do we drive this as a discourse, taking all these stakeholders together at the industry level. And I think this would maximize the impact, and which is what we are looking for. So, recycling, we focus a lot upon, a circular economy, which is about, how can our waste become an input to many other industries on sustainability. On the community impact front, we invest heavily on technology-led initiatives around education, healthcare, women development and empowerment, and of course, environment, because, we operate also in some water deficit districts of Maharashtra. And we are absolutely committed to contribute towards the increase in groundwater table, and also contributing massively towards afforestation. So I think, it's an inclusive development plan that, I could work along with STL here, because, things do not work in isolation. It's not that, okay, you will work only on childcare and things, other things associated with that shouldn't be looked at. It has to be a very, very integrated plan. And I think it's a privilege to really help and being instrumental in executing that.
Well, that's wonderfully put. And that brings us to the end of the conversation. So the last question would be that how does the future of sustainability led initiatives look for Sterlite technologies? And what would be some of your suggestions to the companies who are kind of wanting to venture into the domain of sustainability but are still, hesitant to do so?
I don't see any particular reason for any person or organization to be hesitant about contributing towards sustainability. I think maybe the word is a bit heavy enough, but other than that, I think it calls for the inner passion and a strong commitment to contribute towards the ecosystem partnership. I mean, even if you see, sustainability is not something for which you have to do something other than doing your regular routine business. It is very much integrated with our routine operations, and how do we do it more responsibly is something that we all have to see. How can we create more opportunities for more inclusive development of the communities around, is all that I would suggest the new entrants to look at, while it's more of a startup culture that we are witnessing all around. And how can we conduct our businesses more responsibly, engage communities more and more in our business plans, and creating a cumulative wealth for everybody is something that we have to see while designing our business plans. I think that that's something which will take the agenda ahead, not just one large organization talking about it, or few folks running it in some evolved part of the world.
Definitely. So that brings us to the close of the conversation. And it was wonderful hearing from you, Akanksha, about the way you're approaching sustainability and trying to give access to the communities who do not have access to those, resources there. And the wonderful work that you're already doing in the CSR, and looking forward to more interventions from you. Thank you so much for that.